there on YouTube. Hey here in the podcast ethernets. I just want to jump right in. Have you ever been in a relationship where you felt like you were constantly treated badly? Like you just felt like you were always crying. You felt like they didn't understand you. You didn't understand them. You were always sad. Maybe even got to the point where you didn't really want to tell your friends anymore about this person that you were dating because you knew it was not healthy, not good, right? You just keep trying to figure it out anyways. If you haven't, let me tell you my own story. This is a mashup of a couple of people from my past, two exes. So one would consistently manipulate me for sex, would ask me to do sexual favors, but would like wrap it up in a whole like, I'm so stressed out. Can you like give me head? Or um, I just want to lay with you, but then now you're touching me and my private bits and, trying to feel on me, trying to like make sure to get me wet. So then from cuddling, it turns into like penetration, which if I said I didn't want to have sex, but then you would try to work your way into it, right? Like that is also a version of being treated badly. What I say doesn't actually matter because if it's not in alignment with what you want, you're going to go for it anyways, right? Treated badly, emotionally, physically, financially. I wasn't even going to tell this story, but I'll tell it now. I had an ex who made buku money, like bank, more money than I thought I would ever see in my own lifetime, right? Me. And I remember he had to like go, he's going to be gone for the whole day for work. And I was in a new city with him. And I'm like, okay, well, I'm going to need some like money to eat, to get around the city, whatever. And he like gave me $20. This was an expensive city, by mind you, like a major tech city. $20. I was like, okay, all right, we're gonna have to talk about that for sure. So being treated badly can also look like you never feeling like the time is right when you want to talk about what's the next step of this relationship. I remember this ex that I was referring to before, I would always, every now and then ask him, like, what are we doing? What are we working towards? And it was like, oh, it's not a good time for me right now. I told you I don't want to be in a relationship, right? And some of that onus is on me, right? Like if someone is saying, I don't want a relationship, I'm not looking for a relationship right now, and I choose to stay around, that's on me. I'm choosing to be here. I'm choosing to continue to get my feelings hurt because I'm thinking the longer I stay, then they'll change, right? So yeah, I'm thinking that they'll change, and they don't because they said what they said when we met. Also, being treated badly could look like things aren't being reciprocal. I'm showing up, I'm calling back in a reasonable amount of time, I'm being kind with my words, I'm being respectful. On the other end, vice versa, when you get upset, you're calling me out of my name. Maybe you're putting your hands on me, right? Uh, I'm the only one taking us out on dates and you're not. Or I'm listening to you when you had a hard day at work, but when it comes to me telling you how stressful my day was at work, you don't have the capacity, right? Not just like, oh, one off, but like consistently, right? That's all being treated badly. So in this episode, I want to help you understand this more. And also, let's talk about how we can work through the process of letting go. How can we recognize unhealthy behaviors? And then, of course, I'm here to empower you, baby girl, and empowering you to prioritize your own well being. Okay. So let's break it up like we do. So, part one of this is we have to recognize bad behavior. A lot of times, I'm always make sure my hair's not making noise on the mic. A lot of times, when it comes to bad behavior, I'm going to trust you to tell yourself what you identify as bad behavior. I can, of course, give examples of what I would say is bad behavior, like mainly like what's unhealthy behavior, and then we can go from there. But you're going to have to be able to decide for yourself what you consider bad behavior. I will be biased and I will say if we are putting our hands on each other, domestic violence, that's bad behavior. Financial abuse, bad behavior, right? Like those two, let's just be in agreement on that. So, identifying red flags. Okay. So, an example of bad behavior is manipulation. Like I mentioned with my ex, would literally text me and be like, hey, can you do me a favor? And I'd go in the bedroom and be like, can you give me head? Like, And that's just one form of manipulation, and other things happen as well. Bad behavior is neglect. Bad behavior is emotional abuse, right? Ways to recognize neglect is neglecting your needs. It could be, some people might say this is small. These things are small. However, we live in the small things. Like my best friend Dr. Orner says from couples therapy on Showtime, we live in the small things. So if we know we live together, we eat meals together, we buy groceries when we share such groceries, and there are no groceries in the house, and it's dinner time, and you come home with dinner takeout for you, but you didn't ask me if I was hungry or what did I want to eat. I'm getting takeout. Do you want something? You were just like, oh well, I didn't. I figured you'd make something for yourself, or oh, I forgot to ask you. Things like that. That's neglect, right? If a mom or a father did that to their child, we would 100% say it's neglect. So how can it not be the same thing? Same thing. Emotional abuse, right? Calling out of your name, making you feel afraid to speak, um, putting you down, belittling you, emotional abuse. That's how you can recognize it. Those are some of the signs. And really, I want us to understand the impact of this, right? How this can affect our self esteem and mental health over time. Even with me as an example, these relationships happen a long time ago. Some of these that I'm talking about happened a long time ago. They're the impact of the relationship is still affecting me, my mental health, right? Like because of those past relationships, I've developed many trauma responses. I've developed doubting my own intuition, doubting my self worth, my confidence. Will all people treat me this way? I'm the problem, right? Like really working out that narrative that I'm the problem. I'm always a problem. It's always me. I always need to change. Always need to change so that someone can love me. Of course, like always, this goes beyond romantic. This is just a place that we can start with it to understand how this is also attached to childhood and growing up, right? So, understanding the impact. If someone was abusing you financially, maybe in your next relationship, maybe just how you think about relationships in general is everyone has separate money. And so the thought of a friend buying you a cup of coffee, it sends you, right? It sends you. You can't handle it, you can't manage it. You're going to pay her back immediately, or you're going to like quickly try to buy her a coffee back. Let me give you an example. A friend of mine and I went to Scottsdale for my birthday. Her and I are anxious planners, period. That's one of the reasons why we work so well together. So he looked up a restaurant, STK. I always want to call it steak, but I guess it's called STK, but I know what they're doing. So we went to STK, we looked up the menu beforehand, so we knew what we wanted by the time we got there. Now, when we got there, I guess the menu we looked at was the lunch menu, not the dinner menu. So I had plans to get this item for this much money, but they didn't have that item. They had lamb chops, which I love lamb. Like, okay, I'll get lamb chops. But the lamb chops were like $20 more than what the other item that I wanted. And so because of my own financial traumas, I was like, oh my God, $20 more, and like I had the money for it, but it didn't matter. It was still $20 more. And I had to work through that. And so my friend, she was like, girl, it's your birthday. I'll pay for it. And I could barely ground myself during that dinner because the whole time I'm thinking like, okay, how can I pay her back for this lamb? How can I show her that I'm appreciative? How could she know that I'm really not trying to get over on you? I wasn't having a hard time deciding because I wanted you to secretly pay for it. Like, all that started coming up, and then I started thinking like, okay, how quickly can I pay her back for this? What can I buy her before we leave Scottsdale that equivalents that's equivalent to the lamb. Let's say the lamb was $70. I don't even think it was that much, but let's just say it was $70. I'm like, how can I pay $70 towards her? Right? Like just in a panic. And her and I ended up having a conversation about it, like how I'm not used to people just outright paying for things. I'm used to paying for things. I'm used to being criticized by family if I'm around money, whether I don't have it or I do have it. And if I do have it, I should show up in this way if I have it, right? Like it's so much trauma. And so it was really hard to break out of that. So this is just an example of how like past relationship bad behaviors can affect our mental health even today. Hope that makes sense. So ways to kind of work through that is just being reflective, like kind of what I did when my friend paid for the lamb, thinking about where's this coming from? How am I feeling so uncomfortable? Write down the behaviors that made you feel small, unheard, or disrespected. So you know what to look for moving forward, right? If this is all about recognizing bad behaviors, we need to have a way to easily recall on it instead of being like, okay, what was that again? When he made me feel small, it's because he would say, I'm having a good day. I don't want to, why are we talking about that right now? And it was never a good time to have a serious conversation because he was trying to avoid a serious conversation because he wanted to keep things the same. And I didn't. Right? We were coming from two different places with that. So let's move on. So part two of this is the myth of if I change, they'll change. Like exactly what I was just kind of ending with. Look at me making things flow through. If I change, they'll change. If I'm quieter, if I'm smaller, if I'm more agreeable, then they will change. They will see that I can do all the things they're asking. They can see that I can get in line with what's being asked of me. They'll see that. And so then they'll change. They'll be the man, the friend, the mom, the dad, whoever that I really want them to be because they see how many changes and how many backflips I can do for them. Here's a common belief that I think we can challenge. So being quieter, being more forgiving, being, like I just said, being more adaptable. Now you'll treat me better. That's what we create. The reality of this though is that you cannot change someone else's behavior. You can only change how you respond to it. This is a lot of the work that I do with my clients. Like we'll talk about relationships, we'll talk about what he did or what he didn't do and things like that. And I have to always remind them and myself, we can talk about him all day long. At the end of the day, you cannot change him. I cannot change him. Even if you brought him in for couples therapy, I cannot change him. A person can only choose to change themselves for whatever reason. We can only change how we respond to it, how long we want to stay in it, and what we're going to do about it. That's it. So if someone is refusing to not change their tone, not yell when we're having a hard conversation, I can change how I respond. I could be silent. I could walk away. I could say out loud, I cannot talk to you until you lower your voice. Or I can leave. I can get gone, right? Like there are many options. Just know that we can't change anyone. It has to come from self, that person's self. I've tried this many times. Many times. I know how to be small. I know how to keep it tight, keep it short, keep it concise, sit in the corner, say nothing, need nothing, right? Like I know how to do that. It's exhausting though, because then I'm not showing up as me. I'm just basically like a doll on a shelf. When you need me, you'll pull me down from the shelf and you'll play with me. When you're done with me, you put me back on that shelf and I'll sit there and I'll wait until you're ready. Because it's not safe if I try to get off the shelf myself, right? It doesn't work. It's a toxic relationship. If I can't show up as myself, some version of myself, right? Like when I say show up as myself, I'm going to pause there for a second. When I say show up as myself, I'm meaning show up as who I am authentically, right? Still being respectful, still using my words, not shutting down, but just showing up authentically, right? Letting people know like, hey, when my feelings are hurt, I need at least 30 minutes to kind of be by myself, right? There's a difference between letting people know what to expect with me versus like, I'm just going to shut down and that's just what it is. And you got to accept it. Like, oh, okay, well, let me know how that relationship works out for you, right? So thinking about not trying to adapt, make ourselves smaller. Don't ask for too much because then they'll change, right? Understand that your value is not tied to how much you can endure, how much you can change for someone else. We, as women, we can do a lot. We can manage a lot. We can hold the weight of a lot. I'm just here to remind you that your value is not tied to how much you can prove that you are resilient as fuck. Because I know you're resilient. We don't have to keep doing that though. It's exhausting. It's stressful. The other part of this is just moving through the pain. Like, what do we do at that stage of where it's so uncomfortable? It's so painful. It's so hurtful. I'm so lost. I'm so confused, right? What can we do? I want you to Acknowledge and accept the emotions that are coming up for you. A lot of times we want to run away from the emotions that we're having. A lot of times we want to try to stuff it and avoid it. However, what you've probably already experienced is when we do not deal with our emotions, they will do onto us, whether that's overeating, drinking, sleeping a lot more, being stressed, snapping at people. Just not you, right? You're not being yourself because you're not sitting with the emotion. Sit with the emotion. It will get smaller. It will get more manageable. It's just like basically, when a baby is just having a hard time going to sleep, they're just having a hard, they just can't manage. Like, why is it so hard? They don't realize they're fighting their sleep. So then you soothe them, you pick them up, you rock them, you pat their back, you sing to them, whatever. That's you helping them, like, just be in the moment, baby. Just be in the moment, and then you'll give in, and then you'll feel better. And that example, feeling better by falling asleep. I want you to allow yourselves to feel the pain. I want you to allow yourself to feel the sadness and the anger rather than suppressing the emotions. It just doesn't work and it's not helpful. Okay. Some ways to healthily cope with these emotions. To cope with the pain is journaling, right? Talking to a friend, seeking a professional, a coach, a therapist, right? Somebody, a trusted mentor, somebody. Okay. It's okay to feel these hurt feelings because it's a part of the healing process. If you know a way to heal without sitting with those emotions, call me. We'll make lots of money. Okay. Call me. We'll figure it out. So, as we're kind of wrapping this up, I think another important part of this is rebuilding your self-worth. Because a lot of this, what we talked about already, can really eat and break down and attack your self-worth, your self-esteem, your self-confidence, right? I want you to remind yourself of your worth, not letting someone else define your self-esteem. It's easy to get into that. How they feel about me is how I'll then feel about myself, and therefore I'm not good enough. You got to break out of that. I know that I'm a kind person. I know that I'm a forgiving person. I know that I'm a sensitive person. I know I'm a curious person. And so if someone doesn't appreciate or doesn't like any of those things that I just named, doesn't mean I'm bad, doesn't mean I'm not good enough. It just means that we like different things. But it doesn't mean I have to feel bad about myself for being curious. It doesn't mean I have to feel bad about myself for being sensitive. I just am, right? I feel a lot of things, right? And with that, setting clear boundaries, not tolerating bad behavior, right? A lot of times, I just keep going back to this example because one, I still hear about it in my sessions, is when people call their loved ones, their romantic partner, whoever, out of their name, calling them a bitch. Like, I could never. Mm-mm, mm-mm. That's something that I will not tolerate. You're not gonna call me out my name. Like, there's a lot of things you can say, but we don't have to take it there. Right? We're not going to tolerate bad behavior. We're not going to tolerate consistent bad behavior. Are we humans? Yes. Will we make mistakes? Yes. Consistently bad behaviors, consistently calling out your name, consistently not asking if you're hungry, consistently not showing up for you, consistently ignoring your emotions, your needs. No. Consistently yelling. Where are my words today? She's struggling today, right? I also want you to visualize this desired relationship that you have, the feelings, right? How do you want to feel in your next relationship, in your present relationship? I'm guessing you want to feel respected, you want to feel loved, you want to feel safe, you want to feel appreciated, you want to feel honored, right? Use that as a way to suss out what is a good relationship for you. Is this going to be that good relationship, or is it more of tolerating bad behaviors? Right? I want you to just prioritize your own needs, set those boundaries, let people know how to treat you, hold up the boundary. Again, that's the hardest part, I think, about setting boundaries, is holding it. It's a lot of energy and effort to uphold a boundary. Like, I just want to be able to say it once, you remember it, you know it, you won't mess up again. No, I got to keep reminding you, I got to keep reminding myself, right? It's a lot of work. And then we move into the process of letting go, moving forward, right? If you decide this person, bad behavior, it's toxic, I can't do this anymore, then what does that look like? And again, this is your own life, so you got to decide what that looks like for you. Is that minimizing contact? Is it No contact. Is it just creating physical and emotional distance? Is it focusing on self, focusing on wellness, focusing on maybe you want to go back to school, focusing on rest, focusing on travel, whatever? Going back to the power of no contact, that's a big one for a lot of us. I know for me, it is like just the idea of no contact ever, never, never. It's like, ooh, I don't know. I'm thinking more with family, right? So the importance of no contact, you can have it in periods. Maybe for the next 2 weeks, I'm not speaking to this person. Maybe for 24 hours, I'm not speaking to this person. Maybe you know for yourself, never again, no contact to help with your healing process, which will allow you to like build a new vision for how you want your life to look without a toxic relationship, without that back and forth, without all the consistent highs and consistent lows, right? Like just walking on eggshells, never knowing which way the wind is going to blow. Just no ease, no, can't get your footing, heartbreak, disturbance, domestic violence, right? I'm gonna keep saying that. Letting go is a process. Some overnight is not really easy to do. It's a process. Be patient with yourself. You know how long it took you to build to the level of love and respect and adoration for this person. It's going to take time to also remove yourself from that, right? So, like always, if you need help trying to figure this out, definitely seek therapy, coaching to help you navigate your emotions and build your self worth. Of course, you can work with me. You know where to find me as you work on sitting with the pain, moving through the pain, setting boundaries, and rediscovering your self worth. Okay. So, you got this. I believe in you. We can let go. We can understand the importance of loving ourselves enough to walk away from bad behaviors. You cannot change anyone. You can only change yourself and how you respond. And this can help us get out of the space of attracting situationships, right? Toxic relationships. Okay. I believe in you. Until next time. Bye.